thank you all for coming. It's a real pleasure to have Susanna Marie. Thank you for being willing to do this.
Thank
And miracles happen. I mean, who knew you would be in Binghamton, right? So, and thanks to Susanna's mother who's here, and professor at Binghamton University. And so we're just delighted. Matt and I had dinner with Susanna Friday night, and we just had a wonderful time talking, and I'm sure you'll all be as captivated by her presence as we were, so thanks
Thank
to everyone.
you. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks for that lovely welcoming.
Yes.
So, everybody can hear me? And feel free to move if you can't see me. It was nice to have that little bit of sitting time. I hope it was for you too. And I don't have anything planned. I never do. I don't come prepared besides maybe a topic title, which makes it easy for me, but also puts me on the spot. But really what I like to do is I like to feel into the group. I like to feel into the people, with the people that are here. And for me, that's how what wants to come emerges. And since the topic is the natural state, that's a lovely way to have our next hour together, to be able to sink into allowance and give ourselves permission to just be. And so I'm giving myself permission to be, and I invite you to also give yourself permission to be here and be present to yourselves and be true to yourselves. I don't think we give that often enough to ourselves. Most people in our daily lives. Like it's okay just to be, and to be however you are showing up. There's like this great letting go that can happen when permission is in the air, when permission is here. And I hope that you do this for yourself in your own life, at least privately, to start off with. And then maybe you have a few people that you're close to where you feel like you can be yourself. And my wishes for you is that would grow to where you feel that way about your whole life. There's no need. There's no need to change yourself for anybody or any circumstance. You know, of course there are times that are more appropriate to be this way or that way, but in essence, to not change yourself. And I think we long for that. We long to give one another permission to simply be. And sometimes when we begin to experiment with this, some kind of letting go of certain behaviors can bubble up. Certain behaviors can bubble up. Certain personality traits, like repressed personality traits. Because if we're not pushing aspects of ourselves down in order to be our natural selves, it would make sense that these aspects will need to be released, right? If they're allowed to be, if we're giving permission to simply be ourselves, then all this repressed material is going to want to come up. Is it safe? Is it safe to reveal or show how perhaps sad we are? Some aspect of us that's sad. Or fearful. Anxious, It's not like our natural being is so readily available. It needs to first, these aspects that are kind of covering it over need to be freed up. Does that make sense? I mean, our essential self is always available, even in the midst of it. But for it to flow clearly and freely, it's like these we need to give allowance and give permission to all of ourselves to come forward. And so there can be some time, maybe even years, where we have to go through a time of release, a deconstruction time. You've probably heard of that, right? A time of deconstruction where we what is not really ourselves gets to be allowed to be and allowed to leave. So before anything can really leave, it needs to be allowed to be. Right? It's kind of like removing the furniture out of a room so that you have space. And then our natural, true nature, which is empty and luminous, can shine and be revealed. It's hard to know that empty, luminous space that we are really when it's covered over by a bunch of stuff. It's still there though. And you can tune into it right now. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment, for all the furniture to be out of the room. Don't have to wait. Because it's all around the furniture. And actually it is even. All the personality traits that we have. Because nothing is separate from it. So I invite you to take a nice deep breath and let go and just make yourself comfortable. Make yourself comfortable in your chair. If your body wants to move a certain way, this is a space of permission to be. And if we might as well start now, right? If we're not giving ourselves permission to be when we come to a thing like this, then yeah, and it's releasing, even with laughter and breath and relaxation. And so sometimes we can feel where we're tense inside when we're given permission to relax, right? And that's okay too. The tension is welcomed. I think we all long for our natural selves. And we long to be seen and to be met. And we long to just to be. To not have to be something. To welcome ourselves into the world. Primarily, we have to do that for ourselves. No matter how we were parented or welcomed into the world, we have to do that for ourselves at this point. I've noticed that quite a few people that I work with have a bit of a real fundamental wound, actually, of not feeling like they have a right to exist. To even just be here. Like there's an apology of just being here. And that needs to be deeply, deeply looked into and met for yourself, because no one's going to give you that right. You can't find it in someone else's eyes or through any relationship that you may have. So if you weren't welcomed into the world in a way where you were really, where that feeling like you have a right to exist was really met, you need to do that for yourself. Does that make sense? And see, that turns the attention back on oneself. And that's what the spiritual journey is really about, is the attention is going back onto yourself rather than outward. Where we're going to be finding all our meaning and our right to exist out in the world. And a lot of people turn to spirituality because they realize that that's not happening. It's like, I'm not satisfied. It's not working. There's something fundamentally really not nourishing about being outwardly driven. And that can create, depression or existential crises. But actually, it can be very, very healthy. Because it can turn that outward movement that has been, since you were very little, supported by the collective, that you're going to find your happiness and your meaning and validation out through things, objects, and people, and through accomplishments. Right? And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but it leaves the soul very empty, very lonely. All that outward focus, right? Because we're leaving ourselves to find ourselves, and we've been trained to do that since we were very little, and it's just a collective virus. We innocently pass on to one another. I caught it, we all caught it. But there's, this deep sense of dissatisfaction that many people have is not a mistake. We think there's something wrong with us if we're dissatisfied, if we're unhappy. Well, it's because of that movement of looking for ourselves everywhere but right here. Looking for love, looking for validation, right? Whatever it is. And no one can give it to you, not only because they're doing the same thing, but because it's not theirs to give. And you could be given a ton of real love by someone who knows how to love, let's say. Let's say someone really knows how to love. They just know what unconditional love is. And that could be your, a really great relationship or friendship. But it won't penetrate if you don't have it for yourself. It'll just slide right off. It'll feel good for a bit, but they'll slide right off. Because inside, if we don't have a deep sense of a right to exist, a deep sense of intrinsic wholeness, then it doesn't matter what you get from the outside. Fame, whatever, what people want. It doesn't matter. It'll end up coming up short. It might fulfill for, a day, a minute, a year, who knows how long the high of something like that can through imagination make you believe that you have gained wholeness. But it'll go away, and then there'll be a dip, just like when you've had too much sugar. You just, like, what's wrong with me? No matter what I do, I can't find my joy. What's wrong with me? No, it's nothing wrong with you. It's just the way that the attention's moving. It's moving outward, and it needs to be turned inward. So that's the spiritual shift. It's a big maturity. It's a big maturation right there. So the attention just goes from being outwardly driven to... And that doesn't mean that you need to stop everything you're doing. It's just that the way you look for things and want things changes. And it's a big habit. It's a big thing to shift because it's got a lot of conditioning, a lot of what they call momentum, a lot of habit. Habit is strong. So the habit to look outside of yourself is however many years you've been on the planet almost. So to stop that, first of all, it takes something, right? It takes either exhaustion, which some of us are so willful that it takes exhaustion, right? I had some of that. It can take a crisis, or several crises, where something awful happens. Health crises too, right? That could do it. Or it can just take where you're not exhausted, it's not a crisis, but you're just something that says, I've had enough. I've had enough of doing it this way. Relationships aren't giving me what I want. Work isn't necessarily doing it. But it's kind of like this ego drive, And I have a 18-year-old and a 20-year-old, and they're pretty much in the ego drive time. They have quite a bit of sense of themselves, even so, I have to say. But it's like there's a lot of momentum there to do, to be, to become, who am I in the world? And my feeling is that there's kind of an evolution in each person's life as to how this all plays itself out. You know, when and if you reach a point of saturation. Well, the false sense of self, the personality, the persona, it can start hurting. The cracks can appear in that false persona. You know what I mean by persona? The personality, the one that we take on to, we might have several. In Greece, they used to have these masks, and they would do these acts, you know, acting with these masks, and they called it persona. And they would change the mask, and we do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the cracks, when they appear, it's really good. You know, you want that to happen. And falling apart is really not such a bad thing. But it's good to have context. Falling apart and not having context is not so great. But having some understanding, some spiritual understanding or psychological understanding, that your true self has a greater chance of emerging when you have cracks. It needs a crack to come through, to shine through. And then eventually it's like, can't get that mask off fast enough. It's like, you know, like just take it off. I want to be my natural self. And so, you know, this is one of the places in these kinds of teachings where that's welcome, that's invited. It's supported, it's understood. And then we can start talking about the good stuff, about like what gets revealed. You know? What bubbles up from the surface and what's always been there. And even in the midst of it all, it's just been overlooked. The simplicity of being. So many traditions have spoken about. And there's truth to it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's truth to this, to what so many different beautiful, illuminated beings have spoken about throughout time. And they just have this desire to share. And we naturally do share our state of consciousness. That's what we're all doing. You don't have to sit up here like this to share. Okay, so why don't we open it up and see if you have some questions along the lines of what the topic is and the subject matter. Yeah.
I'll go first. I think I have a two-part question
Okay.
related. So, firstly, I would like to know, maybe from your own personal experience, spicing up your spiritual practice. I know for me, when I have a more disciplined meditation practice, it is just, with every single day, there's just so much revelation.
Mm.
And not so much revelation, but it's more of awareness, less of the entity with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of seems like, oh, this is the right approach to take. And yet, I still find meditation to be very boring.
Mm-hmm.
For me to sit down, I'm a very active person.
Mm.
It's very hard for me to sit behind it, just to sit in general, like to do stuff. But, so I'm always kind of looking for something else to do to kind of continue the practice.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where I'm asking for. I know initially when I began, I could read books like Adyashantis or Ramanas and just look at YouTube videos, and that was kind of like meditation of its own. I would just zone in,
Mhm.
and that would help. But now, hearing that stuff over and over and over again, it's always awareness, consciousness, no I, this and that. It's just after a while, it kind of gets a little boring.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe I could ask you, I mean, one of the reasons I came here this morning was like, okay, this is something new, I don't really do retreats, I don't really do these talks. So I have to come here and kind of to throw something in. So I thought maybe I'll ask you something from your personal experience or other people that you've seen that help them to kind of throw something in and out in order to keep the juice going.
I have an idea. Ragas. If you listen to like Indian ragas,
Okay.
they kind of give your brain a sort of wavelength to attach to, and they're beautiful. And there are ragas for morning, and there are ragas for afternoon, and there are ragas for praying, and they're cosmic and beautiful. And, I don't know,
Sure,
but that was just.
That's, yeah, yeah. So because, I don't think they can hear that, the question, right? So in this
Probably
live
not.
streaming, yeah,
Probably not.
so I'll just see if I can recap. So some kind of, you're wondering if there's some kind of, and you know, this is kind of good, I get to repeat what I think I heard, and you can correct
Mm-hmm.
and shift, you know, kind of fine tune if it needs fine tuning, your question. That you're wondering if there's something beyond meditation that you find kind of at this point not very interesting, and all the other taking in teachings that you can do in your daily life that will help deepen your spiritual practice in an active way that is a living way, a way
Mhm.
that's lived, that you can live. Well, I like what you said, Alyssa, right?
Elisa, yeah.
Lisa. Yeah, while you were speaking, I was thinking it would be nice to engage the heart, you know, and that's what ragas can do. But the ideal is to live as this, right? To open to awareness. Yeah, that's nice. But then how are you? Where's your attention being placed during the course of the day? Where is your attention being placed as you engage with life? And do you feel any connection to your heart?
You're asking, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how to answer that. I would say no. I say I have a hard time with that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, just feel that something that's not, maybe, I would say even before I got into a spiritual path,
Mm-hmm.
I probably had that a little bit more, but I would call those interests. I feel it's all like became very programmed. You know, always stay as awareness, always stay as awareness. And it's phenomenal, it's great. My life is so much better than it ever was.
Mm.
Even little episodes of depressions feel warm.
Mm.
Yeah, and so it's very kind of tool based. It's very like programmed. Okay, awareness, and the more I stay as awareness, the more it's the more vivid things become, the more lively things become. But it's through that approach, not really through the heart. I'm not even sure what that. I've heard that before.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure what it means to kind of through the heart approach.
Okay.
I have
Yeah, I
a feeling
kinda-
it's more of a head approach. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I got a plan, I know what to do, then we do it.
Yeah, no, yeah, everything has its time. But when you come to the end of its time, it's not working so well
And
anymore.
I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, so awareness approach is mind oriented. It's the capacity of mind to focus on something and to notice, right? Attention. To give attention to something is a mind-based practice. And to give attention to what you're doing through the course of the day and how you're feeling, what you're thinking. I'm speaking for others as well now, just to be able to catch them up a bit, maybe to what it is. That brings an incredible amount of presence and activates the witness, the ability to notice what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're sensing, and so on. And it also then, it engages yet another capacity once that's been practiced, is that there's an awareness that there's awareness. There's awareness that you are the noticing. There's an awareness that you are that which is noticing everything. That's what you are. So that's this capacity to wake up as awareness, that you are that awareness. You're that which is always aware since you were born, since you were little. You've been noticing everything and taking everything in. And that's a shift. Can you kind of feel it? There's a shift there. It's not like identification with objects all the time, but that you're actually the one that's noticing these objects. It's a big, big shift. And it's a type of awakening, just to have that capacity. But it can be dry. It has its limits. And then so we have these other capacities that can come on board and are meant to. And that is this, to live as awareness in our life. It's you said something about warmth.
I'm saying, right, even when I have negative emotions, they feel kind of warm.
They feel kind of warm.
So I feel like this practice got me far.
It did, yeah.
And it will take me very far. There are bouts of, I would say, not awakening, but just with a few minutes of just pure awareness without an entity. Nobody who's aware, just awareness is awareness that things are happening within it. So it got me, and I feel like when I have a more disciplined meditation practice, it works even faster. These things happen more. These realizations kind of come more. It just feels there's more. There could be more to it.
Yeah.
It's very, even though these finally, you could kind of say like finally I'm beginning to see effects of what I got into this for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, well, when, it's like when things dry up, I don't think we're meant to force it. It just, it's not like to be lazy, I'm not suggesting that, but you don't want to, if things dry up, it's because, in this case at least, what I feel from you, is that it's, that the heart wants to get engaged. And that awareness practice, it really puts us far back into ourselves. It pushes back consciousness way far back, and it looks back at life from this point of view of the unborn nature. It looks at all of life that way. But it's like that's we're meant to live and engage life, and to feel the warmth, actually, in the intimacy of being engaged with life as life, intimacy of being here, intimacy of feeling deeply, of sensing connection, sensing lack of connection, with empathy and compassion, and all the things that come. And that is a heart practice. That's, the mind has the capacity to know emptiness, but the heart knows unity. It knows itself as the whole.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, I think, like when different, like talking about non-dual and stuff.
Yeah.
But I like that
That
balance.
approach, the
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
So what I'm sensing here is, and if it resonates for you, is to, why not do some heart meditations? Where you, and anyone can do this, by the way. This is a real simple one. but really powerful. Where you just imagine that right here in the center of your chest, right where your heart is, that this is where you breathe in and out, rather than your nose or your mouth. You breathe in and out of your heart. So you're breathing in to your heart and breathing out from the heart. In, out. And the more that you do that, you don't want to become like a marathon runner where you max it out too much, but you want to start it off slow, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. Feel it out and just do it a couple times a day, maybe. And what it does, it kind of jump-starts this energy center, because it's slumbering. Unless you activate it, it's slumbering. Because if you're perceiving mostly from here, right, from the eyes, from the head, we're leaving out this whole territory of below the neck. So what you want to do is you want to start perceiving through other intelligent centers of your being. This is only one. So the heart is another intelligent center. And then your sensing body is yet another. But right now for the heart, you just want to start, do some of the breathing. It already starts to get warmer. You can start to feel it come on board. It's pretty amazing, actually. And if it doesn't, then just keep at it. Sometimes it's pretty asleep. And then during the rest of the course of your day, see if you can perceive life through the heart. How does the heart see others, perceive others? How does the heart perceive you? And what you're feeling, So you want to bring your attention to how the heart is perceiving. And the heart, I'll just give you a little hint, it doesn't divide life up. It's very unified in how it sees things. It doesn't have hierarchy in how it sees people.
I'll give that a try, thank you.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. And sometimes it can make us feel a little vulnerable, because we'll start to feel the aliveness of being here in a body, and the intimacy of that, and the delicacy, the fragility of being here, and the fragility of connection. So don't be surprised if you start to feel a little bit fragile. But it's a good thing. It's a good pointer. Because that means that you're coming back to life. Maybe for the first time. We protect ourselves from feeling deeply, for the most part, and feeling one another, because we think we can't take it. But actually, that's what makes us come alive. We're here to live, right? We're here to be alive and to live and to feel connected and all the little synapses firing off. You can't protect your heart and be really living. To be alive is to feel. Yeah.
It's not really a question, but I would hear you talk about our perpetuation, I would say, of like the idea of self
Mhm.
is one, it seems, in the world of accomplishment, manipulation, attainment. And I see so many, it's so common, that mentality, to take it to spirituality. So, and then a practice becomes, this will give me something. You know, so that's kind of my, like, how do you talk about that?
Oh, so just, like the, using spirituality in order to get something? To
Yeah,
get-
it seems that's kind of what spirituality has become,
Mhm.
and people approach it that way, even though their longing is much deeper than that. You know,
Yeah,
right?
right. Well, I think that's an innocent kind of thing we do in the beginning, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't we all kind of like, we approach any new venture with ideas of what it's gonna give us. We can't help but do that because we don't know. So we're filling in the space of not knowing with imagination.
Mm.
And a lot of that imagination is what we see. We see, what we imagine we're seeing, that certain spiritual, let's say in the realm of spirituality, what they may be looking like. You know, they come out on stage and deliver a really great thing and disappear, right? And they seem so poised and relaxed and whatever. And we just, we can't help but project, or what we read, or things we read from, you know, the sutras, or, you know, ancient texts or whatever, even modern day stuff. And we think, oh, it's going to give me freedom, peace, all this stuff, right? And we superimpose on that all the things we don't want to have in ourselves, right? All the qualities that we would want to get rid of, and that peace means, when we read about that, peace means that all that is not peaceful will go away, right? So we make these kind of like real innocent mistakes about what it means. And then over time we get to hopefully sober up. And I think a lot of what spirituality is about is sobering up to what it really is about, which is actually, that includes everything. It includes when you're not feeling peaceful. And includes all the aspects of ourselves that we're hoping will go away. They do lessen, they do quiet down, especially when they're allowed to be. When our anxious one is allowed to be, it doesn't have such a need to make such noise, right? Even anger, like the energy of anger, when we really give a chance to feel what it's about, it doesn't need to act itself out. So all these things, we get to over time sober up and hopefully get some good pointers, teachings or whatever, that point to that directly rather than feed the illusion of what spirituality is about, which creates such a separation, right? Inside, it feels awful. It's like this idea of perfection, like perfection is really going to save you. No, it just leaves you out. Right? It leaves you out of the equation. There's no perfected model of a human being out there. There might be an integrated one, more integrated than not, right? More allowing of these aspects, even the ones that are still in shadow, and say, okay, yeah, there still may be some shadow likely there, and I welcome it. I'm not going to hide and pretend it's not there. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, and I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, no
Left my
worries.
phone at home and I didn't remember which one.
I'm glad you're here.
So. But again, thank you for coming. I'm really glad to be here
Yeah.
and meet you in person. But my question is, I've spent the past few years really working on the strength of my ability to feel things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've had a lot of reasons to feel a lot of things in the past few years. And so I feel now that my heart is really strong, like my emotional intelligence, and like my capacity for compassion and empathy is pretty strong. And I'm learning how to feel that stuff for myself now. But I find myself, it's left me kind of out of balance, I think.
Mm.
I still have a lot of healing to do, but also I have a life that I have to learn how to begin again and sort of find who I was in the past and those best parts of myself. And I'm working on finding inspiration from people in my family who've known me forever and who are really good people. But how do I like get that energy and like lose fear and like figuring
Right.
out my life again?
Well, in your case, it's different from this gentleman here, right? That it feels like what our lives are really asking for, so much of our being, is balance, right? And in order to find balance for this wonderful qualities you have of going into your feelings and feeling empathy and compassion for others and on the human journey that are experiencing suffering as well and so on, we need to counter that with a balance of your empty nature. You know, that which is already at peace, that which is not disturbed. Does that make sense? It's like the ship needs to be righted. It needs to be righted up. And so that's what I would recommend, is like a gentle meditation practice or something where there's quieting down of your nervous system, you know, like your nervous system is needing quieting. And it's really hard to be in life when our nervous system is disturbed and traumatized and activated. You can feel the vibrational energy of the nervous system when it's going too fast, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are luckily so many practices and body centered what is it called? Body work, you know, that can help with quieting a nervous system, supporting resting in your being, in your nature. And if you know, because it's like it's really hard to do that when our nervous system is overloaded. So you need that support of either getting, you know, if anyone's heard of craniosacral therapy or network chiropractic stuff. Network chiropractic is an energetic chiropractic that it's so good for your nervous system. I did years of that. Yoga is really good, and meditation. But meditation on its own might not be enough. It could be, I don't know, you know, it just depends. But that's what I would recommend is support for your nervous system, so that so space can be made in your being for all this, these energies that are wanting to find rest and to find balance. They have a chance to.
Great. But yeah, I mean, I've recently gotten back into my yoga practice, and it seems to be very nourishing.
Nourishing, yeah. So I would bring in some silent sitting, and I would do some occasional body work with someone and get some good release work. It can be really powerful and helpful. I've spent hours on the table crying with different practices, different body work practices, and just releasing. You know, that's what I meant earlier by that the room needs to be. We need to make room in our being. Take out the furniture and deconstruct so that our being can finally rest and relax. I mean, so much of spirituality, of what I'm talking about, of being, integrated being, is actually opening and relaxing. Those would be, if I had two favorite words, it would be open and relax. Yeah. How we doing with time?
After 3, but
We're good.
half an hour maybe.
Yeah, no rush, I was just
Yeah.
curious, yeah. Okay.
This morning at breakfast, we were talking about running things that scare us. We find a way to run away from them through anger.
Right.
And that's sort of on topic.
Mhm.
You could talk about that a little bit more.
Running away, yeah, I like that we were bringing that up, and I thought about that. Might be good to talk about here today.
What was the question?
Let's see if I can formulate. that the uncomfortableness that can arise out of being, I'll just say being with what is. So learning how to be with what is a real practice. It's probably a Zen practice, right? Or I don't know, we'll just say. I don't know, I'm looking at you because you did all those years of Zen. But it's really a catchword, but it's a great one for any time, right? Being with what is, meaning things are as they are in this moment, just as they are. And how you feel, start with yourself. Always start with yourself. How do you feel right now? What is your inner experience? So you tell yourself the truth of what your inner experience is, and my recommendation is you open to it. Something in you just kind of allows it, open to what it is. You don't have to like it, you don't have to want it, any of that. You just kind of open to it. So this is what's going on inside. Your internal, I call it like internal weather report. You take your internal weather report, your internal temperature, what's going on? Of course it shifts moment to moment, right? But right now, right? And also we just have sort of a general feeling of ourselves. So then we have being with what is here, and then we have being with what's going on in the room. With each other, with the energies of the room. We're actually taking part in each other's energy field right now, sensing one another. And maybe when some of us drop, maybe more of us together can drop. It's kind of like, or if there's anxiety, we can kind of feel it, So we're actually transmitting and receiving, all of us, one another. So then there's life circumstances, being with what is in terms of the life, your life, what's going on in your life. So if we have any kind of resistance to any of this being with what is, then we're moving away from what is. Right? If we're resisting it, if we're like, we interject, I don't want this, or this is not good enough, or I want something more, then we're not opening to what is just here, right? We're running away. We move away, right? So then we're leaving ourselves. We're really betraying ourselves, actually. So we're leaving ourselves, and we're bailing on the other person too, or and going into imaginative thinking, actually. Wishing things to be different, right? Wishing things to be different internally, with another, or with life circumstances. So there's a sober quality, there's a soberness to just landing it here in your life just as it is. And going, this is what it is. And it's more than sobering. It actually is your freedom lies there. We think that it might be boring, or we might feel caught, or it takes a lot of practice actually to learn how to open to not wanting to move away from your internal experience. But when you do, everything gets to just this luminosity. I like that word today, luminosity. It just gets to reveal itself. It's like what is whole and complete, even in the imperfection, surfaces. It's like, yeah, so there's a little pain here, a little heartache, there's some sadness. I mean, like, aren't we such a mix? We're such a mix. And then, but it's like this jewel, when it's allowed to really be. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to leave yourself for anything. And then just the true nature of what's right here, the nature that is inherent in everything being exactly as it is right here, without moving away from it, gets to reveal itself in the midst of your life, in the midst of how you feel, in the midst of. what Mary is saying is running away from what we feel, running away from the moment, uncomfortableness, running away from an uncomfortable moment with someone else, say. Can you see how that puts it in time? You're putting your body and your energy into time. You're moving away. When you stop and stay present and still to your uncomfortableness or whatever it is, what is whole and complete reveals itself. You are actually in the timeless. You're not moving away. It's just boom, you're here. Has anyone experienced this? Yeah, I see a lot of head shaking.
The running away part.
Yeah.
More of that.
So, yeah, the habit of running away is more familiar.
Yeah.
Right, and then we just feel out of sync. We feel out of sync with ourselves. We feel out of sync with our lives when we move away, right? And then when are we ever going to catch up to that? That's not going to happen. Yeah. Anything else in that, Mary?
Well, I'm thinking that if this is such a universal reaction to things that confuse us or scare us or we don't understand, then if we can sense that in other people, then something you said back here about understanding, if we can sense that in other, you said something about if we're angry and then we can sense where that anger comes from, that frees us from that anger.
Yeah.
But within ourselves, I think also that if we're, all of us are feeling this in this same way, understanding about each other also frees us up tremendously.
Right. Well, that's true. I think that's empathy and compassion.
Yes,
because
the empathy, yeah,
Mhm.
those words are good.
Right. Because we start to discover the human condition, the human nature, how we're all doing this, and most of the time that we're running away from our internal experience, and we're afraid. As a consequence, we're afraid of one another. It's really hard to meet another in a kind of present way when both are just kind of trying to escape.
That's right.
It's like, what's real and alive there? You know, what's going on there? Where's the real meeting? And no one's in the present moment. And that's the thing about the past living inside of us, you know, which it does in terms of memory. It hijacks the present moment so often. It's really hard to be present when we have a lot of pain body and fear going on. But you know, the thing about that, which is not so hopeless to hear that, is that actually in the moment we can meet our fear and our pain. And that brings it into the present moment. It's like even if the past is really living in us and kind of hijacking the present moment, you know, overlaying our present moment with pain body and what has happened, you know, we can't see the moment clearly. Telling ourselves the truth, stopping and telling ourselves the truth about what we're experiencing right now, we are back in the now, even though with that pain. That pain is being felt now. So it's not like it's a hopeless thing where we have to get rid of our pain body and heal the past. We can heal the past right now by being current and staying present to what we're experiencing. And if we are, there's still enough room to be present to, perhaps, if we're really, really present to what we're experiencing and telling ourselves the truth that we're having this big internal reaction inside or memory. Hopefully there's enough room there to still be present to this moment with others or what's going on. So we're not all veiled. trauma really does a big number on veiling us, uncovering over the present moment.
Who was it?
Trauma. Trauma really covers over the present moment. It's really hard to be here with and be with yourself and with another in the present moment, because we're trailing the past so strongly, something that happened. And that's why some nervous system support and meditation or whatever, good therapy can help. Because we need to calm down the nervous system so we can actually be here. Who would have thought that spirituality, so much of it had to do with being healthy emotionally? Psychologically. So it brings it all together, right? It's very integrated. And don't forget to let yourself feel joy. Yeah, laughter is really good medicine. Real laughter. Yeah. Let yourself be silly. And play.
And be grateful.
And be grateful. Yeah, I think gratitude kind of bubbles up. It bubbles up in these kind of special, these moments of like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else doing any other thing. And that to me is a real kind of an opening, like, wow, you're not fighting your life anymore. I'm not fighting my life. I'm not resisting being here in this body and in my life as it is, and I'm opening to it being as it is so much and enough to go, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have this chance to be here, even in its imperfection. And, even then, I'm so grateful.
So it has appreciation,
Yeah.
even combined with, being grateful. It's like you can say, I'm grateful, I'm defining myself. But in a process of appreciation, it seems to draw me into, the state of non-being within being. Somewhat.
Yeah, appreciation. However it shows up for you. For some people, the word gratitude may not resonate. So however it shows up for you, where there's room inside, where you find in your experience that you're glad you're here. That you're glad that you're here and that you get to have this experience, even though it's been so hard, that this life is worth living. And even amidst the heartbreak, and amidst the body aging, right? And the temporality of it, that you wouldn't give it up for anything. You wouldn't. And it isn't just a will for life, but it's also a love for life. It's not just survival instinct. It's out of love, when you can start shifting it, that you want to be here. Out of love. And I think that's a really a big gift. And to admit it to yourself. I don't think we give ourselves permission to admit that we love being here, even when we're uncomfortable. There's something that loves being here. It still wants to be here. Because we miss it. We're going to miss our life.
I was just going to ask, having kids similar age, seeing them struggle, and wanting to be like, stop, you're in this, I mean, we all are in this human body, but I think they just are like, Mom, you're a little crazy. Perhaps I am, but, it's just hard to see and not connect and not be able to share this, because I just feel like it's not available to them at the moment. But I don't know how to, like, sneakily control them.
So you can't have any money until you watch this video. Yeah. No. Right. Yeah. No.
I want to say, like, I think at one point I said something like, but you're not your thoughts, they're just gonna come, but you're not choosing them. And my daughter was like, what do you mean I'm not my thoughts, or something. And then I think she just completely disagreed with me, and I thought, I don't have enough,
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. I just, you're right, it does feel that way. And anyways.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know, I just.
No, I hear you. It's difficult seeing our loved ones suffer
Yeah.
and be lost in, in believing that they, and something is so true that they suffer, I get it. Honestly, the best thing that I feel can be done is by modeling. Not that they really see much of you anymore, right?
No, it's
Yeah.
painful.
You're not around,
Relationship
they
is
don't,
all-
yeah, that's what that age is about, right? It's about separating, individuating, and pushing away a bit, especially if one has been really close to one's parent, and especially if it's a boy, but girls too. They need to individuate from you, and so the closer you've been, it's almost more, the more they push you away.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, so, I don't know, it's like the times that I do get to spend with my kids, it's like, I notice that they just kind of drop down and relax with me. It's almost like I'm like a little island with a palm tree. And they go and they kind of park, for a little while.
They get recharged.
Yeah, and they go.
That's great.
And because I've never spoken to them about this stuff. I mean, they might have caught little bits here and there, but I've never ever purposely, unless they ask me specifically, I don't tell them anything.
Do they know what you do?
Yeah, I mean, they have an idea.
But they're not interested right now.
No.
Probably, and they
No.
don't need to.
No.
That's great. I mean, I think that's kind of neat, because they have to.
Yeah, it gives them permission to find their own way.
Yeah.
I trust, see, the thing is with this is that the more that we become islands upon ourselves, the more that we can trust that they will find their way, and that even if they're kind of lost forever in in the idea of a separate self, they're fine. I mean, this is the thing about this stuff, is that I think the more that you mature into it, the less you see that anyone needs to be saved. Yeah. And that we just love them. You just love them, and that you work on yourself, and that when if they ever decide to find out about this stuff for themselves, you can be there, or you can offer resources or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And you
yeah.
can even,
Yeah, I do.
but I don't know, but that's me. I know some parents who well, I don't actually, have you noticed most people who are teaching don't have children? Most of them don't. It's not, check it out, most of them don't. But the few that do, that I can think of, some of them talk to their kids about it, but it's just not been my way.
Yeah.
It's not been my way. I really love giving people lots of space to be. And that's the other thing, is like, we don't have to preach, we don't have to teach in terms of our friends and our loved ones, any of this stuff, because coming from an unconditionally loving place and a place of allowance, because that's where you are living in your own being, it is so wonderful for others. I mean, it's healing. It's naturally healing. Like, who doesn't want to be given permission? Right?
Yeah, I sense that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Kind of like checking in. Yeah.
I do
Another
have
question?
Yeah, hi. Are you Mark?
Yeah, Mark.
Hey, Mark, you were behind this lovely woman and her hair for this time.
Well, like, so, sometimes we hear the phrase, call off the search or stop the search. I really
Right.
can't get my head around that one. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but it hasn't occurred to me naturally. You know, it hasn't like spontaneously arisen or whatever. Like, I still enjoy the search, you know, or.
Mhm. Yeah. And what is, and it's just because you heard that you think that should happen, or what?
Yeah, it's like a, oh no. Your problem is that you're on a search, now stop it.
Okay.
You know, like that.
Right, okay, so for those who, did you know this is being done live? Does anybody know that? I keep
Yeah.
I've forgotten most of the time. So the question is about
Have you
the
ever had
search.
to deal with that issue, or have you ever?
Personally?
Yeah.
Um,
Did you reach a point where the search was like over, you felt like, or did you reach a point where a certain aspect of the search was over, but then another aspect, you know, came up?
Yeah, I think that the search, well, there's so many possibilities with, it's just not one thing about the search, you know. The search is longing for God, longing for yourself, longing to remember, longing for your self-remembrance, you know. There's so many words, but, and the search, but the idea of calling off the search is because the idea is that longing can mistakenly be leading outwardly, you know, where we long, you know, this hunger. I was very hungry.
A lot of relationships are based on that one.
Yes, of course. So, but the idea is that the longing, that you follow the longing back to yourself, right? So the longing, yeah, this is what I had to discover is that. Well, you've heard about Rumi, beautiful longing poetry, the Bhakti path, longing, longing, longing. Beautiful, beautiful path. But the thing is that what you want to do is, like, let's say longing is this golden cord that goes outside of you, and it longs for itself. It's longing for its nature. It feels like it's missing something. It knows it's missing something, and it longs for it. That's natural. That's healthy. So what you want to do is you want to trace that longing back, go back, follow the golden cord backwards into yourself, to where that longing goes. You long, and it's like it gets, the gap of that longing closes. It's like it's getting closer and closer to your own being, to your own heart, where your longing is actually bringing you back home into yourself, not outwardly, but into yourself. And so it gets quieter and quieter. The longing gets quieter and quieter, not as vocal, not as desperate, right? Not as loud. And so that it gets quieter and quieter as it becomes more and more centered in its own home, in its own being. And when it finally goes ka-chunk, and it lands right back in its where it left, where it imagined that it needed to leave to know itself, you know, back 2 years old or whatever, you know, I don't know. But it goes back, and it just kind of like a marble that finds its home, you know, and stops rolling. And then it doesn't need to do any more of that. It's just home. It just rests. And that's when you know that the longing is ended, is because there's a rest, and it's kind of like, oh, I suddenly noticed that the longing's not there anymore.
That's great. I see I had an intellectual problem, but it's really, the answer is in the feeling.
It's in the feeling. It's totally in the feeling. Like, how self-connected do you feel? Do you feel yourself? Do you feel your intrinsic wholeness right now? And do you need to move away in order to find it? Can you just find it right now and just rest? Even if it feels a little bit this way or a little bit that way. Sometimes we can feel a little out of sync. and we can tell ourselves the truth about that, we feel a little bit out of sync with ourselves. We don't feel quite at home. And as soon as we tell ourselves the truth about that, we're back in wholeness, including the out of syncness. You just rest deeper, you let the holding go deeper, so it includes the out of syncness.
Yeah, I could say I'm have a lot of problems with myself. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I get the abstract nature of wholeness, but then, you know, I sleep 8 hours a day, I eat 3 meals a day. You know, it's like somehow I'm not integrating the human aspect, basically. I would say I'm more offended by it, you know.
That's a good pointer, that something's not, yeah, right, you're offended by it.
So I guess I should, and I can see that the wholeness, the resting, you know, has to resolve that issue, or has to at least relax about it or something.
Right, well, the resting includes that issue. So that issue itself is wanting acceptance, wanting allowance, wanting your nature, what you are, what we all are, is here right now. It includes everything that you're experiencing.
So it's already the case.
So it's already the case.
Okay.
So whatever issue or non-issue is included. Restlessness is included, longing is included. And your human whatever is included.
A human behavior.
Everything.
So are you saying that longing would stop if we're rested in awareness? Does that stop the longing? Does that get us to that place of being right where we're supposed to, that marble right in that spot home?
Right. So what kind of practice do you do that includes awareness? Do you have one?
You.
I try to remember what it's like to be in awareness and to feel what it's like to be, I would say free of thought, just to be resting in awareness, to bring myself back to that place.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. And do you enjoy it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't abide there. I don't get there very often. I just keep trying.
Yeah, so letting go, right?
Yeah, and just allowing things to be as they are,
Okay.
and accepting that.
Good, yeah. Yeah, I really respect, earnest practice, and just as long as trying is not, because I don't know you, just as long as trying is a doing that's not moving you away from relaxing, But the trying is more your earnestness. Trying is more your commitment. If trying is your commitment, then trying is good. But if trying it contracts you a bit, and it'll take you away from the openness, right? You can't have both at once. But either it's your earnestness is opening you up to including the trying and everything else, or you're contracting and limiting experience. So you want to go more for the opening. And that openness, it helps. It answers the question, really. What was the question? Something about the marble.
It coincides with Mark's. Without finding happiness, is your
Right.
happiness, that longing, gonna stop once you rest and try to remember what it's like to be in awareness? Is that our goal home?
There's a completeness that reveals itself where you won't have a question of goal anymore when a settledness takes place.
And I can't control that, so.
Right, so
Yeah.
the subtleness, it just kind of ends all the questions of what is needed when we settle in our being, and it's just like, it's like home. Home, you are your own home. Really, that's what we're longing for, right? Is to be home inside of ourselves. And to feel that self-connection, right? And feeling that self-connection, the best way it comes from allowing everything to be as it is, right? It's beautiful, because something is allowing that. What is allowing that? What is allowing everything to be as it is? That's that's one of those, a question, an inquiry, a potent inquiry.
The thing that resists.
The thing that resists is the same thing?
You can resist or you can allow.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So,
It's probably wrong anyway.
Oh.
allowing everything to be as it is, what you see is an opposite. That there's a polarity there. So either you're allowing everything, I'm just going with this.
Mhm.
Either you're allowing everything to be as it is, or you're resisting. Right?
Mhm.
Okay? But, let's include an over possibility, yeah? So you get allowing everything to be as it is, and there's resistance, and there's kind of like a lock and key here. There's duality at play. But what about, what's noticing that? You know, like what's noticing from whatever direction, up, down, all around? What's noticing this kind of dual play that either you're open or you're contracted? That thing, what is noticing this dance, this polarity dance, that like either we're in acceptance of a moment or we're in resistance to the moment, right? Either we have a yes or we have a no. More no's we tend to have more no's. So, but something is aware of that, right? So this yes and no is the duality at play, right? In this kind of closed system that we're talking about. That is how most of us are moving through life, right? This big dance of yes and no all day long. But what awareness practice gives, spirituality in this sense, is to be aware of this duality dance. And that, being aware of that, what's aware of that is not caught in it, right? It's not caught in that dance. It's aware of it. It's purely aware of it. So that is the greater allowing everything to be as it is, because that is really allowing that to be as it is. Does that make sense? We have a question over here.
Yeah, so I want to talk about addictive behavior, but I have times when it's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and I can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So how, when you're in that yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, how do you get?
Right. Okay. Good. That's perfect. Right. So this is the dance of duality and resistance, right? The resistance dance, right? We're in the yes no kind of, like it goes like this, and it doesn't know how to let go. So as long as one is hanging on, it's like ah. And what you want to first do is just admit the truth of that. Right. That you're caught.
Yeah.
You're caught in a loop.
Yeah, because I can get that far.
Good.
Often I'm like, yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to take a backward step at that point. So you're this is going on, right? And it can go on. You're like, whatever. You know, this can go on, and you take a backward step, and you look at it. You have to do a little. You have to objectively. At some point, you have to have some objectivity, right? So you want to step back, and you go, "Wow, look at this! You know, this is what a wild dance," and you're not going to solve it from within it. That construct, right? You're not going to solve it. That dilemma. It's a knot. So, but maybe it doesn't need solving. Maybe it just needs some good perspective. And so you step back and you go, just take a breather, you know. I'm just kind of picturing it because I mean we all have this. We all have these kind of. Might even have it right now. You know, we have so many things happening in our being at any one given moment. We're like worlds upon worlds. Inside right now, there might be a place that's doing that right now. Can tune in. But it has to do with where your attention's being placed.
As you were saying that, I just got this visual of just seeing this as almost a cartoon, as cartoon figures
Right.
or something where it's like, yeah,
Right.
there they are, they're
There
doing
they
their
are.
dance, they're.
Exactly. And the world is doing it, right? Have you noticed? It's doing it on a big scale.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah. So, yeah, so it's like, it really has to do with attention.
Can you talk more about
Yeah.
that? Go with that, please.
I'll go with that. Sure. We can really become masterful where we're placing our attention. We're already masterful at it, but we can become conscious of it. We can become consciously masterful. And it isn't about denial, right? It isn't about denial, but it's about, like, it can include, so your attention can be so vast. I kind of like to say it's like, you know, how horses, and they put these blinders on the horses, you know? So they only see what's ahead of them. So you take the blinders off your own blinders, and you expand your view, your peripheral view, right? So you're taking in more of what's possible. And so within that larger context, you have these dualities, these things that are playing itself out. But we are so vast with our capacity. It's true. We're, you know, I'll be far out and say something, you know, we're the entire universe. So, and within that, there's so many things happening. So that's how far our capacity for attention can be, is it can be placed on being so wide open space, so empty, and so wide open space that it has room for all of these things to be as they are. And when they're really allowed to be as they are, it's kind of amazing what kind of, what happens. It's kind of amazing. If attention is wanting to go back there, and from the place of remembering that you're really so much larger than that you're the space that's holding it, actually. From that place, if you want to re-enter that and bring some healing and some attention and some conscious, a quality of conscious resting right in it, like to feel it, so you're not as caught up in it. And then that gets to transform it from the inside. You know, from the outside would be that you're the space that's allowing it all. From the inside, it's actually going into something that is caught and believes in itself so strongly. It's a very condensed, tight thought form that believes in itself, and where it has life of its own. It has life of its own. So you can rest that empty nature that you are, this vastness, right in the middle of it. You can place yourself right in the middle of it, and it just has a transformative, alchemizing effect, because it doesn't fully believe in it anymore. It's not caught up by it anymore in the same way. It can't be, because it isn't all that you are. So as long as you think this is all that you are in that moment, you make it so real. We're God breathing life into things, you know. The Word, first there was the Word, and the Word was made God or whatever, I don't remember. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so that's what we do all day long. We breathe life into our beliefs, into our things, and we make them real. So if we remember that we're the ones we're the space that's holding that belief, then that belief can be transformed from either from it poof disappears on its own, or you can go back in, and as a kind of like a I was going to say like an alchemist, but kind of like even a shaman or something. Really, this is really deep work. Is you go from the inside and you place yourself in the middle of something that's really dissonant inside. And by doing that willingly, it transforms, it disappears itself.
You've arrived.
Thank you. I didn't know that. We were still needing to arrive. Did you guess?
It's time to go.
Yeah, we're still here. We never left home. It's so cute. The marble keeps finding its way.
I tried, I guess it was.
We should do an awakening marble game.
I took off my location.
So, how we're approaching the end, huh?
Yeah, we are.
If anyone has one last question, we can go for it. Yeah.
Kind of following up on some of the things you said, but I'm trying to internalize a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if witness is the right word, but that part of you that is not caught up in the scene, including your own internal process.
Right.
That seems like it's there, but it seems impossible to grasp. So, and I'm probably not even going to do good at even making a question here, so I'm just going to come, we hear the statement, he knows who he is. I know who I am. But in fact, I don't recognize that yet as me. But yet I do feel access to that which is not in the scene. So there's this kind of not quite there-ness that seems to be present. Does anything I said make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's still a little bit nebulous, a little unclear.
Maybe the feeling.
Yeah.
Maybe the feeling isn't. The perception may be there, but the feeling doesn't. It may not be there.
The feeling, okay.
May not be there.
May not.
I'm just, kind of.
Yeah, and you know that how?
That's a good question. Yeah. Who's ever or whatever is observing that would have to know that.
Yeah, it's really kind of a simple question. I really mean that. Like, how do you know that the feeling isn't there? What kind of proof do you have? And what would you be looking for? What are you looking for to know that the feeling would be there? What would be the proof that it is there?
It's pretty much at an intellectual level.
It's on the intellectual level. So, okay, so this is what I would recommend. If you would like something recommended, I don't know.
Sure.
If you're open to
Absolutely.
that. Okay. Is to feel from your neck down, feel into your being. And as a practice, as a daily practice, so that so you feel into your existence with your body, with your sensing being. And just try it out. Just start to feel like, what does it feel like to be me? You know, from the neck down. You're not thinking about what does it mean to be me, but what does it feel like to be me? What is the sense of I? What is the sense, the feeling of I? Can I find it? Can I feel my way into it? Not here, but here. Can I feel my way into it? Feel into your own existence through the body. The sense of you. And just do that for a while and see where that brings you. Does that sound like a practice you'd like to maybe, does that resonate at all?
There's something missing, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm happy to try the practice, I'm happy to engage in the practice, but there's still, my sixth sense feels that there's still something missing.
There's something missing, okay,
And I don't know what it is. But like I said, I mean,
I'm not saying this is gonna solve everything, I'm
Yeah.
just because, we're just having this brief
Yeah.
conversation.
yeah.
I don't know why, but what I'm tuning into is something kind of existential in your belly area. And so that's why I'm just suggesting feeling into the sense of you, the feeling of you in the body, because the body has a felt sense of the me. It has a felt sense of the I. And it's an existential thing. It's a feeling of meanness. And it's not all bad. It's like, with the spiritual journey, we think we need to get rid of the meanness and the I and all that, and there's truth to all that in a way. But first we need to sense into ourselves, and if we're not even know how to locate ourselves in our body, I think that's a good place to start. And, so you can just try it on for size, and if it doesn't sit with you, then you can let it go. But I think it has something to do with the I, and something about existential and in your belly, the felt sense of it being in your, how you see yourself, how you, as a being, as a human being.
Maybe there's a disconnect, so I'm definitely gonna, take in what you're saying. In terms of my own body, I mean, I'm like even known as a dancer.
Oh, you're a dancer?
No, I'm not, well, yes and no. But the idea of dancing or being so comfortable with the body and moving to music is a joy for me, and it comes fairly easy.
Yeah.
But that might be different from what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That may be a way of escaping from what you're saying.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I also danced and did a lot of yoga, and I still, there was a point, and it was one of the last understandings I had, realizations I had to do with the body, and I'm very body oriented. So the mind has its understanding, the heart has its understanding, and then the body has its understanding. And the existential self-sense that can be kind of tied up with angst and with survival. It's held in the body. And that is also a realization, to be had, to
It's
release.
also
A type of realization, it's a deep realization, to release that. The deep angst and existential angst that we have that is survival-based and identity-based in regards to our body, in regards to people we love, our attachments, attachment to the world. It all rises and falls with our attachment to our body. I don't know, it's just a felt sense here.
Mhm. They're all definitely,
Yeah, yeah.
inquire
So,
into it.
yeah,
good.
feel into it, yeah. I mean, I work a lot as an empath and I just feel things. And so it's like, I don't know where I'm going sometimes, but I just feel this thing right here in my belly when we're
Okay,
talking.
so,
And that's the gut is an intelligent center, right? And it has existence in it, like the self sense of existence, of wanting existence, and that you want to unravel that. You want to have it be clear. What's true about this? What is this I that's here? Who am I in my body? Who is this I? It wants to be liberated too. Maybe there's something there for you.
all the,
Yeah, take
That's
a
a
look.
homework to do.
Take a look. On the dance floor, take a good look.
what?
On the dance floor, you can take a
I'll
good
take a
look.
good look, right?
Can I ask a quick, just related to that
Yeah.
follow-up? More and more, now I come from a default sort of idea that the self can't be separate, and so we always start from this, how do I become whole again? And it's like, I'm asking this question from the place of wholeness, and that can't but lead to confusion. I just wonder if, you think that, why does the default seem to be, I'm unwhole?
Right. It's an aspect of wholeness that's confused. Right?
Maybe just, maybe
It's
just
just the wholeness that's confused, an aspect, right? Within wholeness, there's anxiety. Within wholeness, there's angst. Within wholeness, there's confusion. There's whatever, sadness, and within wholeness. So when we have the deep realization of wholeness, we realize we're the wholeness. And within that, all these things are occurring. I can't ever see things inverted again. So that's what happens. Yeah, so I think we're wrapping
Yeah,
up.
we're good. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you. We can talk later if you want, Alyssa, yeah.
I just wanted to say something about smell, like you can't smell yourself. Like at a certain point you become aware of how you yourself smell different from another person.
Yeah.
It's neither good nor bad, but it's like a very bodily sort of, if there's a time where you're spending a lot of time around other people and then you come home and then your own home has the smell that's imbued with you, I don't know, maybe that's, that was just like one of those things where you can't really define
It's true.
it until,
Like, and they say the same thing, like you can't see yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can't, your eyeballs can't turn around and see yourself. Cool. Well, I see we have some people here who are live, so is that true? All those people are live? Thank you for live. We should turn it around and show them all these people here. Oh, no, I just lost them. Thank you, everybody. It was so nice to meet you all and for you all to come all this way in the rain and so on and to feel you.
Thanks for coming here.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun, and thank you to Matt and Michael for bringing me. You won't believe what they've done. So you can thank them also, truly, what they've done to make this happen. All this gear and kindness extended, and then the flowers and and there's donuts. Donuts. In case you need some sweetness, and cider.